Hello, I'm Locke Meredith with Legal Lines, and I'd like to invite you to join me on today's show. We have State Representative Mike Futrell, and Mike represents District 66, about 45,000 folks there. And he's going to talk about all the great things that are going on in Baton Rouge and the general area, all the new economy that's building up, new businesses coming in. Also going to talk about LSU and making it a flagship university, and talk about that Stilly tax, about how our taxes went up. So join us on the next Legal Lines. Welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and I'm very pleased to have on the show today Mike Futrell. Mike is a state representative to Louisiana, District 66.
Right.
About 47,000 folks.
Yeah, it's a great place.
Mike, thank you so much for being on the show.
Sure, Locke.
Give me a little personal history for the folks. Name, address, where you live, that kind of stuff.
Sure. Born and raised in Baton Rouge son. Went to public schools here. Went to Broadmoor High School and then Baton Rouge Magnet High School when it became a magnet school. That's where I met my wife, Karen. We were high school sweethearts.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's neat.
She's a Baton Rouge native as well, and we dated all through LSU and got married right after I graduated from LSU.
Now, what'd you graduate in?
I graduated in business.
Me too.
Then I went to law school at LSU Law School.
Me too.
Then did something which I felt compelled to do. I joined the United States Navy.
Really?
Spent nearly 6 years active duty. I was a submarine officer and
wow.
patrolling in the North Atlantic during the waning days of the Cold War. So I was dodging the Soviet submarines. It was a lot of fun.
Interesting.
I got to tell you. But tough on the family. We spent a lot of time at sea. My third daughter, Madeline, was born while I was at sea. And that's just really a tough way to go.
You can really empathize with the folks overseas now.
Oh, absolutely. I know exactly what they're going through and what their families are going through. Frankly, it's more difficult for the family left behind than it is for the folks that go.
I've got some friends over there, and our prayers are with them all.
Absolutely. But got out of the Navy. I'm still in the reserves, but we moved the whole family back to Baton Rouge. We had an opportunity, frankly, that the military will move you anywhere in the world you want to go when you get out. But we looked around, and there's no place like home, and we came back to Baton Rouge, and we knew there were some problems, but we resolved to work to fix those problems and make it the kind of place we wanted to raise our kids. And
so did you start practicing law after
Started practicing law, and...
What'd you focus on, general civil practice or anything in particular?
Well, I was hired by a firm that does insurance defense, so I have gone into the civil side, defending corporations that get sued.
No.
Well, no. That's not how law practice typically works. But it's been a good career, and shortly thereafter got involved with, you'd say politics, on the Civic Association board. I was president of a civic association, coached softball, coached basketball. All of my daughters played softball and basketball, so that worked out great.
Keeps you busy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And then an opportunity arose in 1996 for me to run for the Baton Rouge City Council. And I did that and was successful and served basically the same area I'm serving now. It's almost identical.
And you said you were there 3 years.
I was there 3 years, and then a lot of the frustration came about because the state of Louisiana, the state laws, control so much of what happens in Baton Rouge.
There's not a whole lot you can do at the Metro Council level. At least, I mean, you're dealing with drainage sometimes if it's not usurped by the federal courts or
right.
Education. It's very limited stuff.
If you want to go where the action is, where you can make a difference, state government is a lot more in control of that. So there was an opportunity, again, for me to run for the legislature, and I did that and was successful, and I'm in my 5th year now at the legislature.
Well, let's talk about what you see are the big issues for Baton Rouge and the state at this time. Tell me about that.
The economy?
I know you see a lot of good things are happening.
There are, and I wanted to mention that because we're right in the middle of a mayor's race, and part of that is, people have to say what's wrong with Baton Rouge, trying to promote a change, and not being political, but there are a lot of great things happening in Baton Rouge.
So tell us what they are. I mean,
first,
we all know some things, but you tell us from a legislative standpoint.
The economy in Baton Rouge is the most robust in the state, and I get a chance as a legislator to look around the state and see what others are doing. We always outpace the other cities.
Why is that?
Well, I think it's because we have 3 great universities now, Southern, LSU, and the Baton Rouge Community College, which is growing just by leaps and bounds. We have Pennington, which is bringing in some terrific technology in biomedical. We have Celgene, another biomedical company that has located here.
Really? I don't know anything about that.
Celgene is terrific. They announced just a few weeks ago that they believe they have a cure for sickle cell. and they will,
wow.
Yeah, it's amazing, right here in Baton Rouge, and they will begin clinical trials in Baton Rouge on a cure. It is they are a stem cell research company, but they take stem cells from placentas, which is the after product of a normal delivery. So you avoid the entire ethical debate about stem cells.
In fact, I know that's been going on this last legislative session with Representative Beard and Hines, I think.
That's right, but they're looking at embryos,
right.
and Celgene goes the exact opposite direction. They take the natural product of a live birth that's normally disposed of. They have a way, frankly, of keeping the placenta alive, and they can harvest stem cells from that. And with the stem cells, they have already marketed a cure for detached retinas. It's a Band-Aid for the eye that cures it like that, and then it dissolves into the eye. And now with these things...
What got them here?
Frankly, Congressman Richard Baker worked real hard. It was a small company in New Jersey, brought them to the tech park at the old Bon Marché Mall, now Bon Carré,
right.
And they have been growing ever since. They've been bought out by a larger company, and now they're investing a lot of money. And so Baton Rouge
That's good news.
It is great news for
So
Baton
what else
Rouge.
we got going on? I know they're doing some development downtown.
You've got Hilton, which has just decided to put $50 million into revamping the old Capitol House Hotel, and that will be the jewel of the downtown. Along that, you've got the Shaw Arts Center, which is be complete by the end of the year. Of course, the LASC is complete. If you haven't seen the planetarium, it's tremendous.
Yeah, I need to get the kids over
there. The Centerplex, and they have some new name for it, but it will be complete by the end of the year. Followed by the Bowling Congress coming to Baton Rouge. People don't realize.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, it is a national bowling tournament, lasts 6 months long, and each week we'll have 2,000 new tourists in Baton Rouge coming to
watch bowling.
No, to bowl.
Really?
To actually compete in a 6 month. It's amazing. It is going to be a huge economic shot in the arm. Think about 2,000 new tourists a week for 6 months long. It's going to be great.
Good.
Yeah, Baton Rouge is really doing well. Bon Carré, while it had some tough times.
Yeah, every time I drive by, it looked like they get something going, and then it just kind of stopped.
No, it's going, and it will be finished by the end of the year. Cox Communications will be moved in by the end of the year. URS Engineering is there, and it has turned into a jewel for the city. Even the Football Network recently had an infusion of $30 million, and they are back on track. Maybe not as aggressive, but they are going back up in their plans to present a nationwide football network here in Baton Rouge.
And getting these new businesses here is because of activity or laws or benefits granted by the state?
Frankly, a lot of hard work. Myself, others, Chamber of Commerce, you meet with these folks one-on-one. Celgene, for example, Richard Baker went and met with them in New Jersey and said, let me tell you what we can do for you in Louisiana. You need to come look at us. And
Why did
there's no magic to it. I think it's because we expressed an interest. I think New Jersey was ignoring them. And you said, we'll come here. We've got a brand new tech park that's being opened by the state. We can provide you with a space. We can provide you with tax credits. And they came. And they've employed people, and they've attracted really bright minds to Louisiana. And those are the seeds that are going to keep our bright people here. We're worried about the brain drain, about people leaving.
Right.
These are the kind of companies that will create jobs.
Well, that is great news. Let's, on the next segment, kind of follow that up, and then let's talk about what issues do exist.
Sure.
This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines and Mike Futrell. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith, and again, very pleased to have on the show Mike Futrell. Mike is a state representative for District 66 for Louisiana. We were talking about all the great things that are going on, and you kept telling me more stuff when we were taking the break. Let's keep going.
There really are great things in Baton Rouge, just the jewel of Louisiana. We were talking about Direct General, an out-of-state insurance company, currently has 450 employees in Baton Rouge. They want to expand in the Baton Rouge area to 2,000 employees. And these are good-paying jobs.
You said there was some kind of state incentive program in that regard.
Absolutely right. It's called the Quality Jobs Act, and they will get a tax credit, but in exchange, each of these jobs has to pay at least $9.20 an hour.
I think there will be a lot of applications.
Yes, they were. And they must provide health care benefits. which in today's economy, that's tremendous. That's worth a lot of money.
That's a big issue. We'll talk about that later.
But 1,500 new jobs in the Baton Rouge area, and they're actively looking for a site right now to locate in Baton Rouge, working with the Chamber of Commerce.
If you got a big build and contact you.
Absolutely right. We'll put them on it, but there are great things happening. LSU, just coming back in, they have the largest freshman class they have ever had.
What is the size?
They're now close to 31,000 students. It is amazing. And this is selective admissions because it's hard now.
Went up.
It's hard to get into LSU.
Now, I will tell you, I've heard, in fact, I got some nieces over there, Sarah and Katie Collins, they're saying some of the classes are huge.
Well, that's true. That's the downside of it. And funding for LSU Baton Rouge is a critical state need. And we started addressing that this past year, and it's got to happen again. Of course, the struggle is parochialism. You have 13 four-year public universities in Louisiana, and they're all competing for the same dollar as LSU.
Other states, Mike?
We have much more than we need.
What is the reason?
It's politics. Over the years, everybody wants to have a university in their backyard, and now they do. But unfortunately, we're stretching that dollar so thin across the state that it's hard for any one university to make an impact.
And no one's going to let go.
And that's the struggle. You're right. Politically.
I know you'd introduced a bill in the House that was seeking to have, well, I think LSU's already designated the flagship university.
Right, we've gotten that done.
But to, I guess, set aside or create a trust fund and then fund it with some, what would hope to be some extra cheese or money from the oil and gas production.
And that's how Texas did it. When you look at...
I think you'd gone to Austin with a group of folks.
That's right, I did. If you look at UT at Austin and Texas A&M, that's how they gained real flagship status. And that's how Austin is so successful. I went on that trip to Austin, and the big message was, we are successful because of the university.
Which you've already said is kind of the case in Baton Rouge. We've got these three educational institutions, and we're blowing and going.
Yes, but if you look at how LSU Baton Rouge is funded compared with other schools in the SEC, Auburn, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi State, we are beneath them. We are underfunded compared
in terms of quantity of money or percentage of the state budget? I don't know how you analyze that.
The per student, how much do you spend per student? And we're at the bottom of the barrel. What does that mean? That means you don't get the quality researchers to come and be on staff and teach the students and do the research. Where the real economic benefit is you have professors that not only teach but also are researchers, and they get federal grants and they invent new things. And those inventions come out into the community in the form of new businesses, new technologies, new jobs. Those folks are highly sought after, and they'll go where the dollars are.
So the folks we're getting there, not in any way attacking their credentials or anything, but they basically are paid to focus on teaching, I guess.
Well, there's still
not as much research.
There's still a lot of research going on at LSU, but when you compare it to the real research universities, we're not there.
And the bottom line is they can be hustled away by somebody else.
And they are. They are. Once they become successful, they're very marketable. And it's just like a high-priced athlete. They're highly recruited by other universities, by the UCLAs, by the Texas A&Ms, and that's where they go. We need to keep that technology here. We need to keep those brains here, and that's part of the brain drain.
So what do you propose that we do? I mean, I know what you proposed.
The right thing,
that didn't work, right?
The right thing. Well, it was passed by the Education Committee as the right educational policy for Louisiana. We should create a trust fund to support LSU Baton Rouge as the flagship university. That's what Texas has done with their oil money. I don't know what happened to our oil money from the 70s and the 80s. It just sort of disappeared. Texas invested theirs in their universities, and it has paid off big for them. North Carolina did the same thing. Georgia is now doing the same thing with the University of Georgia, and they're having the same positive results for the entire state, for North Carolina and now for Georgia. And it can work for LSU.
So the bottom line is we need some money.
It's got to happen.
And we've got to give it to them.
Now, the politics is what you have to overcome. And that either comes from the governor's office to make it happen, or we come up with a program that will benefit all 14 universities, including LSU. But boy, the cost is out of reach at that point. Well, so we're still going to fight that fight.
We were talking about, I'm hearing, and everybody is, that oil prices have reached a historical high. Almost on a daily basis, it's a new high, as have gas prices, and we're supposed to be an oil and gas state.
Yeah.
why aren't we bringing in tons more revenue from that?
It is not benefiting Louisiana, and this is the first time in the history of the state that it's not benefiting Louisiana. In the past, if the cost of oil had gone up, then you have more people drilling for oil in Louisiana. It makes sense. This time, it's not happening. We are not seeing an increase in the rig count. We are not seeing an increase in drilling. But if you look next door to Texas, they've had an 80% increase in drilling in Texas.
So we're 0% and they're 80%
right.
increase?
If you look at Oklahoma, they've had a 50% increase.
So we're not being competitive.
We are not competitive, and if you look at why, it's because, back to politics, the permitting process to get a permit to drill here is much more difficult and, frankly, political. If you look at the cost, the taxes that we put on people who drill and the cost of these permits, it's far in excess of Texas and Oklahoma.
Who in the world benefits from keeping folks from coming in and drilling? I mean, we're saying politics is caught. Tell me what in the political process, I mean, who is promoting?
It comes down to money. It comes down to money.
Is it somebody who's got them tied up and they don't want anyone else coming to take it?
No, it is the state fees and the state taxes and the state permitting cost that is layered on top of this is far more expensive than it is in other states. So what we have to do, we have to cut that.
So we're saying pay us up front, don't pay us as you're making it. We want all the, or a lot of the cheese up front,
right,
instead of anticipating that we would get it.
And we want a larger percentage than other states do, and it's a money grab. And so the companies are finally looking and saying, you know, it's cheaper to go to Texas than Louisiana. It's cheaper to go to Oklahoma than Louisiana, and they are. And we have to realize if we cut the fees, then they will come here and will generate the same amount of money because you'll have more activity, you'll have more drills, you'll have more jobs being created. It does make sense.
And you're not going to make any money if nobody comes.
Right. Right now you're in a death spiral where the fees are so high, nobody's going to come. Then what do you do next year when the overall money goes down? The temptation will be to raise the fees. You can't do that.
Because nobody's paying them anyway.
Right. You're in a death spiral for your job. So you've got to make that investment, make that hard choice, cut the fees up front to bring the business in. And it's no more apparent anywhere than in the drill count when you look at that.
Well, let's talk about who's in charge of that and the additional issues you see on the horizon in the next segment. This is Locke Meredith with Legal Lines, and Mike Futrell. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith with Mike Futrell. He is a state representative for the state of Louisiana, District 66. Again, Mike, thanks. We're talking about kind of basically how we're going to get more revenue into the state without having to increase taxes on everybody who lives here. We're talking about the oil and gas industry and how it sounds like we're not competitive in the context of all the fees that the state charge and the time that it takes to get authorized to drill. Explain that to me.
Well, the average time to get a drill permit in Louisiana is 18 months. If you go to Texas, it's 6 months. I don't know why that is, what the bureaucracy problem is, but we've got to fix that. It cannot. It is just too hard and too expensive to do business in Louisiana. And we have got to cut the red tape and help people make money here, because then they'll bring jobs. And you talk about raising revenue for the state. There's only one way. You create jobs. You cannot just keep raising taxes. Because
people leave.
People leave. Businesses leave. And then you're, again, in this death spiral of you need more money, but there's fewer jobs, so the temptation would be to raise taxes again just to make it worse. You have to go to the other side, make the hard choice, make the investment of cutting taxes, believing it will make us competitive, and jobs will come here.
There's historical data to support that.
I agree. But again, it's a risk.
Well, and I think you said Governor Blanco is working on getting the permitting process more timely.
She is, to her credit, and I have been in meetings and heard her say it. She's working on the permitting process with the oil and gas industry. I met with some of their representatives this week, and they're pleased with her efforts to fix that problem.
Right.
So hopefully we'll go in the right direction.
We talked briefly before the show about the Stelly tax and kind of how it hadn't quite worked the way it was proposed to work. I know I had Senator Kane in here, and he hates the thing. You were kind of mixed feelings about it. Tell me about it.
Well, there's both good and bad. The proponents 3 years ago said, hey, this is revenue neutral. You know,
meaning?
You're going to see your sales tax drop by $1 and your income tax raised by $1, but overall, it'll be the same. You won't feel it.
Well,
Guess what? That hasn't worked out. The sales tax did go down, but the income tax went up far more than anybody expected.
Double, I think you said.
That's what I'm seeing. That's what I saw. I don't know what you saw on your taxes.
I wasn't smiling when I got my tax
not
bill.
a good thing. So what needs to happen is the income tax part of it be brought back into line with what people were told. People were told, hey, this is going to be revenue neutral, and it's a good thing. Sales tax is too high, so we're going to lower that. But it just didn't work out that way.
So you think that's going to happen? I know he had proposed, you know, a repeal of it. That didn't go down. Never even got out of committee, I don't think.
Well, and again, I'm not crazy.
Supporting that.
Well, no, I'm not crazy about a complete repeal, because what did we have before, Stelly? We had this crazy system of temporary taxes,
which was
and
really
temporary
not
sales tax. Oh,
temporary.
It was
renewed
horrible.
all the time.
Right, 16, 18 years it kept getting renewed, and these were we put these temporary sales taxes on business, on your prescription drugs. It was just crazy. And so it's a good thing we finally did away with that. The bad part of it is, though, the income tax portion was too heavy. And it just needs to be cut back to where it really is revenue neutral.
Is anyone doing that?
Yeah, there will be a proposal this next year that I will author and others will author to try to do that.
What you think?
Again, you're talking about
taking money away from the state instead of giving it back to the
state
people.
government loves to spend money. It loves it. And that's an addiction that we're going to have to break in this state,
In fact, you said even if there were no new proposals or bills passed that cost money, it would still grow.
That's exactly right. If there was one failure in this past legislative session, it was a lack of financial responsibility in the budget. I rarely vote against the budget, but I voted against the budget this year. It was full of pork barrel projects.
Define that. I mean, we hear it all the time. But
sure. Boat ramps, community centers, museums, leadership institutes. It was just rife with that. And there was, as far as I could tell, no attempt to rein in the spending. That is really going to come home to roost next year. Already the budget estimate is we will be $880 million in the red next year. That's a huge hit. And
so what do you do?
Well,
raise taxes and cut spending?
You cut spending. You stay away from raising taxes because that's the job killer. So you get, again, back into that problem where if I raise taxes, I'm going to lose jobs. The more jobs I lose, the more money I need.
So where do we cut?
You can't go there. You've got to go into the cut. First place you cut is the slush funds and the pork barrel projects.
Which are the boat ramps and the
right, absolutely right.
What are the slush funds?
Well, there is a $18 million fund controlled out of the governor's office for select legislators, and it has been highly criticized by
explain that
the
to
advocate.
me. So the governor has control over $18 million that if she likes, and not just Governor Blanco, but I guess any governor.
Well, it came in under Governor Edwards.
Okay. Surprise.
I'm not saying anything out of school. This was testified to on the House floor. It came in as a way to control legislators. We've got this pot of money. If you want to do some pet project back at home, you better vote the way I do.
Wow.
And it's a one-for-one. Legislators that don't vote that way, they see their money cut. In fact, 2 legislators sued Governor Foster over the fund, saying, hey, we were promised money and we voted the right way, and we didn't get our money. It's a horrible system that just needs to go away.
Who has control of that? I mean, it seems to me it's a fund that was created by the legislature, but given power to the governor?
It's included in the governor's budget when the governor submits the budget.
Does the legislature not have the power to say, this is over with?
Absolutely, and we have tried many times to do that. A quick story, we've tried to get rid of it. A few years ago, Governor Foster had cut money for disabled children. It was one of his efforts to get us to raise taxes. So we had an amendment that said, all right, we're going to instead cut the slush fund and give that money to restore the funding for disabled children. Who could vote against that?
And it was voted down.
It was voted down, absolutely. They'd rather have the slush fund than fund the disabled children. It is not pretty at all.
All right, what else do we do? So get rid of the slush fund. What else do we do?
We have got to get a control on our health care costs. That is the one.
Well, that's such a huge issue for the whole nation. It's just incredible.
We've got to reform the charity hospital system and, frankly, slim it down.
I've heard about privatizing it.
I think some cities you can do that. Now, there are some areas in the state where there are no other hospitals, so that's it. But you've got large cities that have both private hospitals and a charity hospital. There's a cheaper way to make that happen. The object here is to provide quality health care for those that can't afford it, not to provide jobs for people.
So what do we do?
So,
I guess get a committee to study it and come up with some proposals, huh?
There is a huge committee right now working on the issue. It's Governor Blanco's health care initiative that she kicked off this spring, and I think it will be a test of her ability as a governor to come forward this coming session with recommendations out of that commission to say, I promised it during the campaign, we started the big study committee, and here's a reform of health care spending in Louisiana. Because that's the one item in the budget that is really out of control, and people see it in their daily lives. They know the cost of prescription drugs. They know how much it costs to go to a doctor. They know the cost of their health care insurance.
Speaking of prescription drugs.
It's crazy. So that is a huge area. And prescription drugs?
We were talking about it. I mean, what do you think of this guy, I think it was Wisconsin or Illinois, setting up this website to send you to some qualified or I guess checked out pharmacies in Canada?
In Canada.
One-third the cost.
What you see, what that is indicative of, is that every state in the nation has the same health care problem we do. This costs are skyrocketing. And I don't blame him for doing that. I told you I was meeting with a senior citizen yesterday. One treatment of her drug is $100 per treatment. Going to Canada, I can't blame him for doing it.
Mike, thank you so much for being on the show. We'll get you back on as soon as we can.
Love to do it.
You update us what's going on. Locke Meredith with Legal Lines and Mike Futrell, thank you for joining us.